What's going on? We're back with another episode of the Tussle Talk Podcast. Really excited to have everybody back. Super excited that the UFC is having fans back. I super excited to be here and talk about the fights. So, first of all, before we get into it, I want to just kind of recap last week's event, UFC Fight Night, Whitaker versus Gastelum. So we will start from there. Really great fight. Really exciting display of technical ability and skill. Two super experienced, talented mixed martial artists. Kevin Gastelum, a former title contender. He lost the interim title bout to the current champ, Israel Adesanya, but he really brought it to him. Super talented. Knocked out former champ Michael Bisping. I mean, the guy's super talented. Went to war for 5 rounds with Robert Whitaker. Robert Whitaker ended up taking the W in an extremely dominant performance. I mean, Robert Whitaker is just getting better and better. But some unfortunate news. Looks like Israel Adesanya is hoping to fight a little bit sooner than Robert Whitaker would be ready for a title fight. Israel Adesanya, as a lot of you know, won the title by beating Robert Whitaker a couple years ago. But Robert Whitaker has been on an absolute tear, running through guys since then, and he is the clear-cut next guy to fight for the title. But it seems like Israel Adesanya, from what I have heard, wants to fight sooner than Robert Whitaker is going to be ready. And so, from what I've heard, the UFC is looking to make the Marvin Vettori versus Israel Adesanya rematch. From what I've heard, I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but it sounds like they're trying to make that fight for UFC 263. If that's so, I'm pumped for that one. Marvin Vettori fought Israel Adesanya back in, I believe, 2018 and fought him to a extremely close split decision. A lot of people thought that Marvin Vettori maybe inched that one out, including Marvin Vettori. He thought he won that one. So that was one of the closest fights, one of the most competitive fights that Adesanya has had to date. So I'm really excited for them to run that one back if that is indeed the case, that Robert Whitaker is going to be next up for the following title fight, and he will fight the winner of Adesanya versus Vettori. So really excited. Just wanted to recap that quick. Anyways, let's move on to today's event, UFC 261. 3 incredible title fights today. I'm so excited. This is one of the most exciting fight cards, events, most anticipated of this year. It's the first card back since the COVID-19 pandemic shut down live crowds for the UFC and mostly all sports teams. So they're going to have a packed full house in Jacksonville. They even had tons of fans at their ceremonial weigh-ins and at their pre-fight scrum kind of press conference. And they even had Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and the Jacksonville mayor there on stage, which was kind of cool. So this is going to be great. They are obviously going to be having this event in Jorge Masvidal's neck of the woods, so he's going to have a lot of support behind him. I'm really excited to see the impact that a live crowd and their energy brings to the fights. So with that being said, let's get into the fights. There's some stuff that I wanted to talk about in recent combat sports news involving some YouTube wannabe fighters, but I'm not going to give those certain people the time of day. So we will just move on from there. We got so much to talk about anyways. This is a packed card. So let's get right into it. I'm going to skip the early prelims because, to be honest with you, I am not too familiar with any of the guys fighting on the early prelims, so we'll just skip right to the preliminary card. We got Carl Roberson, who is a stud, middleweight. he's a stud. I mean, he brutally knocked out another guy that I really like, Ryan Spann, brutally with an elbow. I believe that was one of the earlier Dana White Contenders Series fights, and he really put on a show. He's 9-3. Looks like he moved down to middleweight, I believe. Yeah. Carl Roberson is moving down to middleweight from light heavyweight, so it'll be interesting to see how he matches up against the middleweights. He's going to be fighting Brendan Allen, who I've seen a few of his fights. He's really talented. 15-4 from him. That'll be a good fight. Fight after that, we got a welterweight bout between Dwight Grant, 10-3, fighting Stefan Sekulik, 12-3. Looking forward to that one. Not too familiar with those two. I've heard of Dwight Grant, but I'm not too familiar with his career, so I'm not going to speak on that too much. At welterweight, we got Brazilian Alex Oliveira, longtime veteran of the UFC. He's the other cowboy, Alex Cowboy Oliveira. He's 22-9-1 with 2 no contests, fighting Randy Brown, who has really kind of made a statement in his first several fights in the UFC. That should be a good one at welterweight. Randy Brown, 12-4. So, highly touted prospect. We'll see how that one goes. Alex Oliveira is a hard night out for anybody. So, excited to see that one. Our main card, moving on, absolutely stacked. I'm losing my mind. This is one of the most exciting fight cards of the entire year. First of all, our first fight on the main card, we got Anthony Smith, an absolute killer, longtime veteran. I mean, one of the most experienced and brutal and accomplished light heavyweights, former middleweight in the UFC. He fought for the title against John Jones a couple years ago. Guy's a stud. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm assuming that you are somewhat familiar with the sport of UFC. So Anthony Smith is to be respected. But he's taken on not really a newcomer. I think it's maybe his 3rd or 4th UFC fight. Super talented prospect, Australian stud, Jimmy Crute, 12-1. That one I'm really excited to see. You know, Anthony Smith he's a tough night at the office any day of the week, any day of the year. So this is going to be a huge next step up, a huge test for Jimmy Crute. But so far, every test the UFC has thrown at Jimmy Crute, he has risen to the occasion. So really exciting one to keep our eyes on. Next, I mean, this whole entire main card is absolutely stacked. Like, there's not a single fight on this main card that you want to miss. Next, we got a middleweight bout between Uriah Hall, 17-9, showman, absolutely insane technique, so many crazy kicks, just highlight reel knockouts. He struggled in his last several fights, but I wouldn't count him out just yet. He had an impressive finish in his last fight. I believe his last fight was against Anderson Silva. He's taken on former champ Chris Weidman, who, after a unsuccessful move up to light heavyweight, losing to the champion Jan Blachowicz, has moved back down. Chris Weidman has struggled a little bit as of late. He's 15-5. Really excited to see, if his move down to South Carolina to train with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and all those guys down there. See how that has impacted his game. So that's going to be exciting. Chris Weidman, this is actually Uriah Hall and Chris Weidman's second fight. So this is a rematch. Chris Weidman knocked Uriah Hall out back in, I believe it was 2010. They had a bout in some other smaller regional New York promotion. Chris Weidman ended up catching Uriah Hall, knocking him out. So this is going to be an interesting rematch. Both of these guys have been on a little bit of a career slide. So they got a lot to prove. They got a lot on the line tonight. I'm really excited to see what they got. Uriah Hall, absolutely incredible striking. He's a showman, super talented, highlight real knockouts. If you don't know who he is, go ahead and look him up because you will not be disappointed. Chris Weidman, obviously the former champ, beat Anderson Silva twice. First time he knocked him out. Second time he chucked one of Anderson Silva's calf kicks, and Anderson Silva, he got hurt pretty bad. If you haven't seen that, go check it out, or maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you shouldn't check it out. Broke his leg with a calf kick. Chris Weidman checked it, and it's pretty gruesome. This next fight is probably one of the most exciting fights of the year. I mean, these next 3 main event fights are absolutely incredible. I mean, it's hard to put one in front of the other as far as excitement. I mean, these 3 fights are all the main event in my eyes. So we got the dominant champion at flyweight, Valentina Shevchenko, the Kyrgyzstani, 20-3, fighting Jessica Andrade, the former strawweight champion, who actually won her title from Rose Namajunas by slamming her on her head, knocking her out. She's an absolute powerhouse. That's going to be really exciting. She lost her title after that to the champion in our next bout, Weili Zhang. But first, if you don't know who Valentina Shevchenko is, she's one of the most incredible fighters in all of mixed martial arts, in all of combat sports, not just the UFC, not just mixed martial arts. She's an absolute powerhouse. That is going to be an incredible display of skill, technique, and accuracy and striking, incredible wrestling. Valentina Shevchenko can mix it up like nobody else. She is a master of all trades, and she's taking out on an absolute powerhouse steamroller in Jessica Andrade, who is well known for picking her opponents up and slamming them into oblivion. That's going to be a good fight. Next up, we got the woman who defeated Jessica Andrade to become the current women's strawweight champion, Weili Zhang, or Zhang Weili. She's 21-1. I believe she's on a 19-fight winning streak. She's from China. She's taken on Rose Namajunas, who's 10-4. I am a massive Rose Namajunas fan. She is from Milwaukee, which is my home state. I grew up in Madison. I went to college at UW Milwaukee. Rose Namajunas is from Milwaukee. She's right around my age. I'm a huge fan of hers. When she won the title against Joanna, I was losing my mind. Fighting out of Colorado now. She is the one that Jessica Andrade slammed into oblivion on her head, which was very, very scary to win the title. She's taking on Weili Zhang, who is the next generation of women's mixed martial artists. Just incredible. So that's going to be a great fight. I'm rooting for Rose, but Zhang Weili is something special, a generational talent. So that's one to watch out for. And for the main event, welterweight title fight, the rematch between Kamaru Usman, the Nigerian Nightmare, 18-1, versus Jorge Masvidal, 35-14. Not the greatest record. He lost a lot of those 14 fights by very close split decisions. He's an incredible striker, super exciting, superstar. Kamaru Usman is on the brink of becoming one of the... He's definitely up there in the conversation for greatest welterweights of all time already. So this is a rematch between them. Jorge Masvidal took the fight on 6 days' notice in their last title fight. Kamaru Usman ended up winning by decision, but he wanted to run it back with Jorge Masvidal because Jorge Masvidal, he says, had a built-in excuse. He took the fight on 6 days' notice, and so he wants to shut him up. That's going to be an incredible fight. So the event is going to get started here in about 3 hours, so I'm not going to yap on too much. Excuse me, I'm not going to yap on too much, but I am going to make my predictions, which I absolutely hate doing because if you're a longtime fan of mixed martial arts, you know that it's so incredibly unpredictable, but I'm going to do it anyways. Uriah Hall versus Chris Weidman. This one, I just think Chris Weidman he mixes it up so well. He's got the fundamentals down so well. He's mentally strong. He's got the mindset of a champion. Uriah Hall has the ability to finish the fight at any second of the fight spectacularly, but I just think that Chris Weidman's got the fundamentals down so well. His wrestling is amongst the best in all of mixed martial arts. So if I had to bet, I would make the fight. I would call the fight for Chris Weidman by decision. Next up, Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Andrade. How can you bet against Valentina Shevchenko, one of the most dominant female mixed martial artists, one of the most dominant female champions in all of combat sports? She is just a generational talent. She is a superstar. Jessica Andrade has the power to knock anybody out at any point in time or slam them to death. But Valentina Shevchenko is just so incredibly talented, and she's only getting better with every fight. So I got Valentina Shevchenko. I'm not gonna say how the fight goes. It's either gonna be TKO. See, I'm not even gonna call this one because it could be TKO, it could be submission, or it could be by decision. So yeah, I just don't know how that one's gonna go. But I got Valentina on that one. Next up, the strawweight co-main event by Zhang Weili versus Rose Namajunas. I think this one's going to be a war. Rose is as tough as they come. She's as technical as they come. She's got fantastic striking, very creative on the feet. She's got great submissions as well. But I just think Zhang Weili is an incredible striker. I just think she puts it on her opponents so much, and she just suffocates them, and she mixes it up so well. I got that one probably going to a decision, and I got Zhang Weili taking that one probably by decision, but I will never put money on fights because, yeah, it just never turns out well doing that. But yeah, I got that one by decision just because Rose Namajunas is so tough, but as anyone who has been paying attention to the sport and been a fan of the sport for some time, as they know, Rose Namajunas, never count her out. I mean, Joanna was one of the most dominant female champions of all time, right next to Ronda Rousey. At the time, she was just absolutely dominant, and Rose Namajunas knocked her out twice. So never count her out. She's a Milwaukee girl, so I'm rooting for her. But yeah, I don't bet on fights. I don't put money on fights. But I'm just doing this just to participate. So, and in the main event, Jorge Masvidal has got a full camp for this one, probably even longer. He's gonna fare a lot better in this one. He's just got such tricky, sneaky striking. He mixes it up so well. He's actually got fantastic wrestling, but he never really uses it. He typically wants to stand and bang, but if he needs to, he's got fantastic defensive wrestling, and he's got great submissions too. So he's going to be a lot tougher to beat in this one. But Kamaru Usman knows that, and he specifically said that he wants to give Jorge the opportunity to come in and face him at his absolute peak. So that's what this fight's all about. Jorge Masvidal is going to be coming in with no built-in excuses. So we're going to see. But I got Kamaru Usman taking this one, probably by decision. Jorge Masvidal is just so tricky. He's going to be hard to get out of there. But Kamaru Usman, he has that air of excellence. He has that air of greatness, and he works his butt off. Huge fan of his. He's a generational talent as well. So I'm going to take Kamaru Usman on that one. I'm so excited for these fights, guys. So if you got ESPN Plus, tune in to all the prelims. If you got the money for the pay-per-view, check it out. You are not going to want to miss this main event. Everybody enjoy the fights. I will recap these tomorrow. Enjoy the fights. Be safe, everybody.